Today I'm going to talk about how to graph vertical and horizontal lines. And the first thing you need to do when you're talking about a vertical or a horizontal line is identify when a line is horizontal and when a line is vertical. Okay, so to start off here, we'll look at a line that would be, we'll call it diagonal, but it would basically not be vertical or horizontal. If we had something like, for example, y equals 3x minus 1, and I had my coordinate plane, this line would go, kind of up at an angle like this, and I will leave that to you guys to graph it. So lines that have x's and y's are going to either go kind of up like this, sometimes they go down like this, but they'll all be sort of these diagonal lines when you graph them. Now, there are two special types of lines that we'll graph that will not look like this. They'll either be horizontal lines or vertical lines. Okay. Now, to tell if a line is going to be a horizontal line, it needs to be of the form y equals some number. Like, for example, that number could be anything. It could be like y equals 2. Okay. That tells you, if you see an equation, it does not have an x, it only has a y, it's a horizontal line. It's going to go straight across like this, left and right. Okay. Vertical lines, very similar, and that will tell you also, going back, that this would cross through the y-axis at 3. We'll get to that in a little bit. Vertical lines are of the form x equals some number. So that could be, like the equation, if you had x equals 7, that would be a vertical line that goes straight up and down that would cross through the x-axis at 7. Okay? Now, sometimes it can be tricky to remember which is which, and people forget. I kind of have a dumb way to remember this. If this helps you, then great. If it doesn't, then ignore it. Here we go. For horizontal lines, if you ever look out at the horizon, let's say that this is our horizontal line, and forgive my blue sun here, but you look out at the horizon, sometimes you'll see, the sunset and all those great things. So horizontal lines look like the horizon. And if you change this a little bit, it's going to sound kind of silly here, but they look a little bit like the horizon. So whenever you see just a y, horizontal, it looks like the horizon. It's a horizontal line. So a line that has just a y looks like the horizon or horizon because it has just a y. Now, the x one. So you might think, well, how do I think of something for an x? So if you make an x, so if it's just an x, you take an x and you cut an x in half. Again, this is just my dumb way to remember it. If you like this, great. If not, then don't. If you cut an x in half, it makes a v for vertical. And remember, the vertical just means straight up and down. If you have a high vertical jump, that means you can jump really high. Okay, so again, that's just my way of remembering it. If it has just a y, it looks like the horizon. It goes straight across left and right. If it is just an x, if you cut an x in half, it makes a v for vertical. Now, let's go ahead and actually graph some of these things. Okay. We'll start off here with the first one, y equals 2. Now, the first thing to identify is that this is a horizontal line because it has just a y. It should look like the horizon. And we said earlier on the previous slide that this means that this line is going to pass through the y-axis at 2. So if we go up to 2 here and we place a dot, we're going to have a horizontal line that passes through the y-axis at 2. And there's our line. Okay, not too bad. Let's go ahead and check the next one here. So this one has just an x. Okay, lines with just an x, remember if you cut an x in half, it makes a v or vertical. This should go straight up and down. Now the difference is, this isn't going to cross through the y-axis at -1. It's going to cross through the x-axis at -1. So that's going to cross right here. There we go. And again, we'll go to another one here. Again, this is another graph, x equals 4. Okay, so this is going to be a vertical line. Cut an x in half, it makes a v for vertical. I'm going to go out to 4 on the x-axis. I'm going to make my line straight up and down. Sorry, my lines aren't perfectly straight. Okay, I'm going to erase the ones we have up here for now and jump to the last two. Okay, the next one we'll do, let's go ahead and erase these. We'll go ahead and do y equals -3. Again, it's just a y. Should look like the horizon, which means it needs to cross through the y-axis at -3. That's our y-intercept, and it'll go straight across like this. Won't have an x-intercept for a horizontal line unless it's right on the y-axis. Okay, and then finally, we've got x equals 0. We're going to go ahead and graph this one. So x equals 0, again, on the x-axis. I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm not going to go left or right at all. And it's actually, the line x equals 0, this vertical line, actually takes up the whole y-axis. Okay. Now, if this is good and you understand what we're doing, you can stop the video here. If you're interested in understanding why this works, I'm going to go briefly, just with a chart, I'll show you how it works for the first one. Okay, and we'll use, combine what we learned with how to graph using a chart, and I'm going to combine that with how you would actually understand or make sense of how this works. So if we look at the line y equals 2, and I'm just going to make a little t-chart here, an x and y chart. Okay. Whenever you plug something in for x, you're going to get some sort of output for y. So I'm just, again, just like before, and this is going to seem kind of weird, but I'll explain in a second. I'll just pick 3 points like we did before, 0, 1, and 2. Anytime you plug in a number for x, you're going to get an output for y. The problem is, if you look here, if we take a 0, there's nowhere to plug it in here. So 0, this 0 in here for x, is never going to change the output for y. In fact, the output for y is fixed at 2. It's always going to be 2. So if you take 0 and plug it in, well, there's nowhere to plug it in. Guess what? Y is 2. If you plug in 1 for x, well, there's no x to plug in, and y is still 2. If you take 2 and plug it in for x, well, there's no x, y is still 2. Again, I could do -5. If I plug -5 in for x, you guessed it, it's still 2. And now we can look and see why this line is actually going to be horizontal. So let's go up here. We've got the point 0, 2 will be on our graph. 1, 2 will be on our graph. 2, 2 will be on our graph. And I also included that point -5, 2. You can start to see the picture here that this is a line that just goes straight across like this. Okay, and that is the meaning, or that is how you would understand that a line that has just a y is horizontal. Okay, vertical lines would be the same way, except you have to be plugging in y values and the x value would remain fixed.